horror piles on horror. Now Israeli tank shells destroyed 2 floors of a hospital as death toll drops 550 on 14th day of conflict in Gaza. Al-Aqsa hospital in Deir el-Balah, Gaza, was hit by Israeli tank shells yesterday, destroying 3rd and 4th floors. Hospital patients were pictured lying injured or dead in buildings' corridors while their distraught relatives wept. At least 5 people were killed and 60 wounded in the shelling, with hospital beds and equipment also damaged. It is latest attack in 14-day conflict which has so far claimed the lives of at least 550 Palestinians, claim officials. United Nations has demanded immediate ceasefire, while Barack Obama voiced serious concern over the conflict. Yesterday, photo of Palestinian boy in Gaza hospital shone spotlight on deadly conflict between Israel and Hamas. Killed in conflict are said to include the son, daughter-in-law and 2 small grandchildren of senior Hamas leader. Israeli military says 13 soldiers have been killed in fighting with Hamas militants. But Hamas fighters claim to have captured an Israeli soldier during fighting in the Gaza Strip. Donning blood-stained bandages and ripped clothing, hospital patients lie injured or dead on the floor while their distraught relatives weep. These are the horrific scenes at Al-Aqsa hospital in Deir el-Balah in the central Gaza Strip, which was hit by Israeli tank shells yesterday. At least 5 people were killed and a further 60 wounded in the shelling, while hospital beds, chairs and equipment were severely damaged. Dr. Fayez Zidane said the 3rd and 4th floors and the reception area were destroyed, leading to patients being evacuated to the lower floors. During the attack, 12 projectiles hit the reception, intensive care unit and operating theaters. TV footage broadcast by Hamas showed the wounded being wheeled on trolleys into the emergency department. An Israeli military spokesman claimed anti-tank missiles were stored near the hospital. Israel has accused Hamas of hiding weapons and fighters behind human shields. He said, civilian casualties are a tragic inevitability of the brutal and systematic exploitation of homes, hospitals and mosques in Gaza. One photo of the aftermath of the shelling shows a man lying wounded beneath a hospital sink, his head wrapped in a towel, his knees bandaged and his feet soaked with blood. Another features a woman, who is sat on a bench cradling a baby, crying on the phone as she looks at the devastation around her. It is the latest attack in the 14-day conflict that has so far claimed the lives of at least 550 Palestinians and left a staggering 3,350 wounded, according to Gaza health officials. 20 Israelis, including 18 soldiers, have also been killed and several dozen wounded, including soldiers. It has meant Israel has come under renewed pressure, with the United Nations demanding an immediate ceasefire and Barack Obama voicing serious concern over the 2-week conflict's death toll. Today's hospital attack, which injured 20 medics, came as UN Chief Ban Ki-moon and U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry headed to Cairo today to try to end the deadliest conflict between Israel and Gaza's Hamas rulers in just over 5 years. But slender hopes of a truce were crushed when Hamas, the Islamist terror group, said it would not agree to an unconditional ceasefire and Israel vowed to fight as long as necessary. Today, a photo of a desperate Palestinian boy was released that captured the tragic and bloody tension of the conflict in Gaza. Badly wounded and screaming for his father, the youngster was pictured clutching at the shirt of a paramedic who was attempting to lay him flat on a hospital bed. The Electronic Intifada, a pro-Palestinian publication, reported the photo, taken at Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City last Thursday, was captioned with the boy's desperate cry, "I want my father, bring me my father," according to Fairfax. The Palestinian paper claims the young boy was one of 4 siblings brought to the hospital wounded, 2 of them just 3 years old. It comes as grinning Israeli tank commanders were pictured flashing the victory signs as they blast their way through Gaza in the bloodiest day of the offensive so far. As one resident of the troubled region said, the gate of hell has opened. As Israeli airstrikes continued to pound Gaza on Monday, rescue workers near the southern Gaza city of Khan Yunis were digging out bodies from a home flattened in one of the strikes overnight, said Ashraf Al-Qidra, a Gaza Health Ministry official. Al-Qidra said the Palestinian death toll from the 2-week offensive stood at 508 as of Monday morning, including 20 bodies that were found at the site in Khan Yunis. 2 people were pulled alive from the rubble, he added. Elsewhere in Gaza, Israeli tanks opened fire on the home of the Siam family west of Rafah in the southern part of the Strip, killing 10 people, including 4 young children and a 9-month-old baby girl, Al-Qudra said. Meanwhile, the Israeli military said it foiled a Hamas infiltration attempt today through 2 tunnels leading from northern Gaza into southern Israel. Earlier today, the top Hamas leader in the Gaza Strip signaled that the Islamic militant group will not agree to an unconditional ceasefire with Israel, while Israel's defense minister pledged to keep fighting as long as necessary, raising new doubt about the highest-level mediation mission in 2 weeks. Cross-border fighting continued unabated, with Israeli strikes leaving entire families buried under rubble and Hamas militants firing more than 50 rockets and trying to sneak into Israel through 2 tunnels, the latest in a series of such attempts. This afternoon, Israeli fighter planes struck homes across Gaza, burying at least 3 families under the rubble in at least 4 cases, said Ashraf Al-Qudra, a Palestinian health official. In one of the strikes, 9 members of a single family were killed in Gaza City, he said. In another, 10 people of a family were killed in the southern Gaza Strip. Rescuers going through the wreckage of a house targeted late Sunday also retrieved 28 bodies in the town of Khan Yunis, including at least 24 from the Abu Jamia family, according to Al-Qudra and a local human rights group. Doesn't this indicate that Israel is ruthless? Said family member Sabri Abu Jamia. Are we the liars? The evidence is here in the morgue refrigerators. The evidence is in the refrigerators. The Israeli military said 10 Hamas infiltrators were killed after being detected and targeted by Israeli aircraft. Hamas also fired 50 more rockets at Israel, including 2 at Tel Aviv, causing no injuries or damage. Since the start of the Israeli operation, Hamas has fired almost 2,000 rockets at Israel. Israeli Defense Minister Moshe Yaalon said the Gaza military operation would have no time limit. If needed, we will recruit more reservists in order to continue the operation as long as necessary until the completion of the task and the return of the quiet in the whole of Israel, especially from the threat of the Gaza Strip, Yaalon told a parliamentary committee. Israel accepted an Egyptian call for an unconditional ceasefire last week, but resumed its offensive after Hamas rejected the proposal. Hamas says that before halting fire, it wants guarantees that Israel and Egypt will significantly ease a 7-year border blockade of Gaza. Ismail Haniyeh, the top Hamas leader in Gaza, signaled today that Hamas is sticking to its position. He said the aim of the battle is to break the 7-year-old blockade of the Palestinian territory. The blockade was imposed by Israel and Egypt after Hamas overran Gaza in 2007. Over the past year, Egypt has further tightened restrictions, driving Hamas into a deep financial crisis. Haniyeh said in a televised speech that we cannot go back to the silent death of the blockade. He said all Gaza's 1.7 million residents shared this demand. Gaza has decided to end the blockade by its blood and by its courage, he said. This unjust siege must be lifted. Hamas remains deeply suspicious of the motives of the Egyptian government, which has banned the Muslim Brotherhood, a region-wide group to which Hamas also belongs. Israel invaded Gaza late last week, preceded by a 10-day air campaign. Air and artillery strikes have targeted Gaza's border areas in an attempt to destroy tunnels and rocket launchers. Yesterday marked the single deadliest day in Gaza since the conflict erupted on July 8, with more than 100 Palestinians killed, according to Palestinian health officials. Most died in the first major ground battle of the conflict, in Gaza City's Shajia neighborhood, which Israel says is a major source for rocket fire against its civilians. Yesterday evening, Hamas spokesman Masher al-Masri in Gaza claimed his group had captured an Israeli soldier. An announcement on Gaza TV of the soldier's capture set off celebration in the streets of West Bank. But there was no official confirmation or denial of the claim in Israel. Earlier, the Israeli ambassador to the UN, Ron Prosser, said the Hamas claim was untrue. For Israelis, a captured soldier would be a nightmare scenario. Hamas allied militants seized an Israeli soldier in a cross-border raid in 2006 and held him captive in Gaza until Israel traded more than 1,000 Palestinian prisoners, some of whom were involved in grisly killings, for his return in 2011. The UN, which has warned of war crimes, has said at least 1,370 homes have been destroyed in Gaza and more than 100,000 people displaced. Last night, the UK pledged more than £5